Donald Trump is not mourning Charlie Kirk's death. He's exploiting it. That's why these demands from the right for Democrats to apologize or condemn the shooting feel so hollow. Trump doesn't care about Charlie Kirk. What he cares about is using this moment to push his authoritarian agenda and silence anyone who stands in his way. And we saw that clearly in a recent post where he went so far as to threaten liberal voices, something extreme, but unfortunately not surprising coming from him. Still, it's revealing, and it shows exactly how this administration is trying to cover up the truth about the Kirk shooting. Before we dive into what Trump actually posted, I want to highlight what Pete Buttigieg had to say in response, because it perfectly frames the context we need to keep in mind.
Secretary, I do want to get your response to some of what we've heard from the president. This from the Oval Office just this week. Take a look.
My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country.
What is your reaction to hearing that?
I want to be really clear about this. This is an example of something that is hurting. We're not getting the leadership that we need to bring this country together from the White House. And in order to turn the tide of political violence, yes, we have to reject those who commit political violence. Yes, we have to reject those who celebrate or promote political violence. But also, in order to deprive political violence of its power, we have to reject anyone who would try to exploit political violence. The response to this cannot be for the government to crack down on individuals or groups, not because of violence, but because they challenge the government politically. We need to have free and open political debate and a healthy political process in this country. And by the way, just like an overwhelming majority of Americans reject violence, an overwhelming majority of Americans, left, right, and center, believe that the government should not be cracking down on its political opponents because they are political opponents, not in the United States of America, not ever.
I think Pete Buttigieg really aptly described the failure of leadership that Donald Trump has demonstrated. This entire time, only trying to rile up anger, get people more upset, trigger violence in the streets. That's what we've seen from Republicans like Nancy Mace, from Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's what we've seen from Charlie Kirk's own widow, saying that this is essentially war and that the people who did this, a white conservative man, by the way, will pay. They want to inflame tensions to the point where they can exploit this as much as they possibly can. And what Pete Buttigieg should have gone further in condemning, what actually needs condemnation, is the way that Donald Trump has exploited this act of political violence. Donald Trump is using this as an opportunity to not only silence us inside of our own messaging ecosystems. Donald Trump and the right telling us that we have to lower the rhetoric. We have to rethink the way that we speak about a man who is an authoritarian, but actively going forward in silencing anyone who disagrees with them inside the federal government. And we got new reporting about that. That is very, very disturbing. Pete Hegseth tells Pentagon staff to hunt for negative Charlie Kirk posts by service members. Several people have already been relieved of their jobs because of their posts on social media. Defense officials told NBC News. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has told his staff to identify any members of the military who have mocked or condoned the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk so that they can be punished. Several service members have been relieved from their jobs because of such posts, the official said, adding that Hegseth's directive also pertains to other associated with the Department of Defense. Charlie Kirk was not a statesman, a civil rights leader, or an American hero. He is not deserving of our government operating on his behalf to defend his name, a name that was used to attack every single marginalized group in this country. Where was Pete Hegseth going after Mike Lee, who was mocking the killing of Melissa Hortman, making jokes about it? They were silent because they just want to use this as an opportunity to make you silent, to stop you from speaking out against their administration. First, it's posts that they say defame Charlie Kirk's name. Next, it's anything that resembles criticism of our government. And it's not just those in the government, but all of us. And Donald Trump has made that really clear with a post he made attacking media outlets. Trump shares TikTok of supporter calling for outlawing news organizations lying about Kirk assassination. Donald Trump on Saturday afternoon shared a TikTok video that implored him to revive legislation that would make it damn near impossible for news organizations to lie about the American public following the shooting of conservative media star Charlie Kirk. The woman in the TikTok video, who uses the handle official Ellie Mae, called on the president to fully restore the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948. The legislation, the woman said in her video, held news corporations accountable for lying to the American people and spreading propaganda instead of the truth. That was before it was amended during former Barack Obama's presidency. She added, "This is not exactly the case. The Cold War era legislation authorized the preparation and dissemination abroad of information about the United States, its people, and its policies through press, publications, radio, motion pictures, and other information. It also blocked funds from being used to domestically share propaganda that was aimed at foreign audiences." The red-headed TikToker in her clip urged the president to bring back the 1948 version of the legislation and rename it the Charlie Kirk Act in honor of the 31-year-old. You make it a law, and you make it damn near impossible for these people to continue to lie to the American public, which has brought chaos, hatred, division, and anarchy all across the country, the TikTok user said. Finds out the ass, which will damn near bankrupt their company should they lie to the American people ever again. They can have their opinions, that's fine. They need to state that it is their opinion and that it is not fact. Because of their constant lies, a man has lost his life over it. Because of their constant hateful rhetoric of calling him a fascist and a Nazi and a white supremacist and bigot. They say the same thing they called to you. This man is dead. Donald Trump shared the video on Truth Social without adding any footage or a text post to go along with it. On TikTok, the 130-second clip has 111,000 views. It's almost ironic that this right-wing influencer on TikTok, whose video Donald Trump reshared, seems to have forgotten the massive lawsuit that forced Fox News to pay out $787 million for lying to their viewers about the 2020 election. Think about that. We have never seen a so-called liberal outlet face anything close to that kind of penalty. When was the last time Rachel Maddow had to pay hundreds of millions for deliberately misleading her audience? It hasn't happened, because what Fox did was different. They knowingly spread lies over and over again, and even admitted it in their own messages. So if we're going to talk about lying to the American people, maybe we should start with right-wing media. The same media that rushed to declare war on the left before they even knew the alleged suspect was a 22-year-old white man. That's where accountability is needed. And the truth is, these lies are fueling radicalization, especially online, especially among young men. That's why Pete Buttigieg's response to this moment was so important. And I want to start there.
Look, every time there's one of these killings, in a summer that began with the assassination in June of a Democratic lawmaker by somebody with a kill list of Democrats, and is ending this September with the assassination of a conservative figure, and you go back through so many other cases, political and not of violence, there is not a consistent pattern of left versus right among the shooters, but there is a pattern where we see so many of these people are men, usually young men, who seem to spend more and more of their time in dark and twisted corners of the internet. And I think there is a sickness, not just the sickness of somebody who would pick up a gun and shoot someone, but I think a broader societal sickness that, frankly, I think you could see and feel in how many people around America, normal people, not dangerous people, were at a moment when we all should have still been praying for the victim and his family, were busy online praying for some shred of evidence that the shooter would turn out to be from the other political team. That is not healthy, and that is not a way forward, but that is exactly what the algorithm pushes us to do. And this does seem to be especially acute for young men. Young men right now, statistically, are the group most likely to spend most of their time alone. That is a prescription for a deeper societal level of pain and unraveling that we have got to turn around. We can't go on like this. And I think it's especially important to remember that some of the very same people who are in these conversations online.
On one hand, Pete Buttigieg is saying we need to understand and fix the loneliness that drives people into dark places. On the other hand, Stephen Miller is calling for a crackdown on colleges and attacking any project of multiculturalism that might bring people together. That contrast says everything. And it's something we're going to keep pointing out here, unapologetically. If you want to support this work, hit subscribe, drop a like, and leave a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.